Talking to Tony Green with the Oregon Department of Justice. Understand that the AG's office has entered into an agreement with the Salem Fire Department in the city of Salem. Could you tell us what that agreement is about the Oregon National Guard pertaining to Guard members at the fire department?
Yeah, this agreement was following an investigation into allegations of retaliatory treatment by the Salem Fire Department against members of the fire department who were military service members, specifically that they were unwilling to work with the National Guard on scheduling issues, that some firefighters received poor performance reviews as a result of fulfilling their military responsibilities, and that in some cases firefighters were terminated during the probationary period as a result of their military service.
Obviously, this is not an admission of guilt by the city. What legally does this bind them to?
It binds them to follow the law, and it has them agree to have a federal judge monitor whether or not they're following the law.
Were you able to prove the discrimination actually occurred?
Settlements typically don't get to that. There is no admission of guilt in this, as it were.
Do you find this kind of allegations are commonplace in emergency services, police, fire department in Oregon, or is this unusual?
This is the only time I'm aware that we've ever conducted any sort of investigation like this.
How many people were involved in the fire department in filing this action?
We talked to a total of 5 firefighters. There were the 2 who reached an out-of-court settlement with the city, and then there were 3 others who had varying degrees of concerns.
Can you identify who those were?
At this point, I can. We don't want them to suffer any consequences for cooperating with our investigation.
Allowing an employee to go on guard drills, and what are employers legally required to do?
Well, federal and state law require employers to accommodate service members so that they can fulfill their military responsibilities. They're not allowed to penalize them, whether it's in promotions or pensions. They need to respect the service that they're providing to the country.
Now, the news release says that Keith Dubanovich, Associate Attorney General for the state of Oregon, says he's pleased that it will result in significant reforms that will protect veterans. Now, you're talking about reforms by operations of the Salem Fire Department, and what kind of reforms are we talking about?
Well, in this particular case, we're talking about active service members as opposed to former service members. I think he was speaking generally about our efforts on behalf of members of the military and former members of the military. The reforms here basically are an overhaul of the way the fire department treats service members.
Are there any procedural issues that will be changed, or is it basically an edict to just to essentially treat them differently? And that can be pretty subjective, don't you think?
The law is pretty clear on how you need to treat them, and we don't think it's going to be. We think it's, most employers do comply with it, and we're confident that moving forward, the Salem Fire Department will as well. But fortunately, we have in place a monitoring system.
Who is monitoring this?
Federal Judge Michael Hogan.
What will that monitoring entail? Will there be follow-up interviews or what?
I think it's going to be primarily a document-based, but if he is going to have significant authority to review whatever he wants to review.
What if, in the judge's opinion, they're not meeting the criteria set forth in this agreement?
He's in a position to enter an order requiring them to do additional things.
Such as, and what if they don't do that?
Most people comply with court orders. If a federal judge orders you to do something, there are not a lot of people who are going to try and defy them.
Are there any monetary damages involved yet?
Not between the Department of Justice and the City of Salem. The City of Salem did reach a confidential agreement with 2 former firefighters that included monetary damages.
Operation Eagle's Wings did submit a request for an interview to the City of Salem, specifically the City Manager's Office, to respond to this settlement agreement with the Oregon Department of Justice. That request for an interview was denied, and we were pointed to the City of Salem's website, in which a news release has been posted in response to this settlement agreement. A news release I will now read verbatim. It's regarding a settlement agreement between the City of Salem and the Oregon Department of Justice, dated March 21st, Wednesday, 2012. The statement says, in regard to today's media release about a settlement agreement between the City of Salem and the Oregon Department of Justice, the city wishes to respect the request from 2 former probationary firefighters that the matter be kept confidential. We are surprised, the city, that the DOJ has chosen not to honor the confidentiality request of the 2 former employees. City of Salem believes the DOJ's allegations of a pattern of systematic discrimination and retaliation against city employees who are members of the military are unfounded. In the settlement agreement with the DOJ, City of Salem does not admit to any wrongdoing. In fact, the settlement agreement states that the agreement is not intended to be or construed as an admission or proof of any liability or fault whatsoever by the City of Salem or the Salem Fire Department. City of Salem, in the statement, says they willingly entered into the settlement agreement with the DOJ in order to have any potential future claims reviewed for their merit by an objective third party. The City of Salem and the Salem Fire Department, according to the statement, has a long history of supporting our military veterans and employees who are members of the military. The Salem Fire Department did not and does not discriminate against its employees who serve in the military. And that is the end of the news release from the City of Salem that we have read verbatim because of their denial for an interview by Operation Eagle's Wings regards to this settlement with the Department of Justice. I'm Dave Adams, Operation Eagle's Wings.